Welcome to Grand Prix, your go-to channel for the fastest updates in Formula One. We've got 3 hot stories for you, so make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay ahead of the pack. Let's get started. The Formula One driver market for 2026 is already heating up, and all signs point to a potential chain reaction once a single top driver makes a move. While the spotlight remains firmly on what will happen with Max Verstappen, George Russell, and Charles Leclerc, another team quietly preparing for major changes is Racing Bulls, Red Bull's sister team. According to BBC journalist Andrew Benson, at least one, and possibly both current Racing Bulls drivers could be replaced for the 2026 season. It's a familiar scenario for Red Bull's junior program, which has long been known for making swift, performance-driven decisions when it comes to its driver lineup. The latest shakeup began earlier in the 2025 season when the team swapped Liam Lawson and Yuki Tsunoda, reportedly to test whether Tsunoda could match Verstappen's pace and potentially become a long-term option for the main Red Bull seat. However, that gamble hasn't yielded the results the team was hoping for. While Tsunoda has continued to struggle with consistency, the driver truly making a name for himself is Isack Hadjar. The Frenchman has already scored points in 5 of the 10 races so far this season, an impressive feat for a driver in a secondary team. He currently sits 10th in the Drivers' Championship, outperforming expectations and putting himself firmly in the conversation for a permanent seat in 2026. But the biggest name emerging in the background is Arvid Lindblad, a British rookie currently racing in Formula 2. Despite it being his first season in the category, Lindblad is already 3rd in the standings and catching the eye of Red Bull management. According to Benson, there is a high probability that Lindblad will make his Formula One debut in 2026 with Racing Bulls. If that scenario plays out, a likely driver pairing for Racing Bulls next season could be Hadjar and Lindblad, a mix of proven F1 promise and fresh F2 talent. However, there are still many moving pieces. Both Tsunoda and Lawson are under pressure to deliver results before the end of the season. And with Red Bull's history of making abrupt changes when performance is lacking, nothing is guaranteed for either driver. Lindblad's rise through the ranks has been rapid, and Red Bull appears eager to capitalize on his momentum before rival teams show interest. Promoting a driver directly from Formula 2 to Formula 1 is nothing new for the Red Bull system, which famously did the same with Sebastian Vettel and Max Verstappen, and those decisions paid off handsomely. Meanwhile, Hadjar's steady performance in 2025 is building a strong case for retention. If he continues at this pace, he could cement himself as the cornerstone of Racing Bull's lineup, possibly even putting himself in contention for a future seat at Red Bull Racing. The bigger question is whether Red Bull is being fair to its young drivers. Their program is known for being ruthless, often giving drivers little time to prove themselves before being replaced. It's a system that has created stars, but also left several promising talents by the wayside. As the 2025 season unfolds, the final decision on Racing Bull's 2026 lineup will likely depend on performance trends over the next several months. With internal evaluations ongoing and external pressure mounting, the next few races could be make or break for drivers like Tsunoda and Lawson. So what do you think? Who should Racing Bulls choose for their 2026 campaign? Should they bet on youth with Lindblad and Hadjar, or keep some experience in the garage with Tsunoda or Lawson? Let us know your thoughts, and don't forget to subscribe for daily updates on all things F1, from behind-the-scenes rumors to on-track drama. The 2025 Formula One season has been anything but smooth for Ferrari. Entering the year with high expectations, the team has faced more challenges than breakthroughs. The SF25, Ferrari's current challenger, has displayed glimpses of competitiveness, particularly in low-fuel situations such as qualifying sessions or late stints in races. However, overall, the car remains inconsistent, extremely sensitive to setup changes, and reliant on a very narrow operating window, significantly limiting what the drivers can achieve on race day. Despite these limitations, Ferrari remains committed to developing the current package. That decision alone speaks volumes about the confidence the team still has in the SF25's core concept. A new upgrade package is set to debut at this weekend's Austrian Grand Prix. The main objective? To reduce the car's dependency on a driving technique known as lift and coast. For those unfamiliar with it, lift and coast is when a driver eases off the throttle well before the braking zone to save fuel, protect the hybrid systems, or control brake temperatures. It's a necessary tactic under certain conditions, but it compromises pace and limits the driver's ability to attack or defend, often when it matters most. Between the Spanish and Canadian Grands Prix, the impact of this technique on Ferrari's race performance became glaringly obvious. In Spain, for example, Charles Leclerc had to frequently lift early to avoid excessive wear on the car's underfloor skid block, the same component that led to Ferrari's disqualification in China earlier in the season. In Canada, the issue was different, but the result was the same. An aggressive setup forced the team to ask their drivers to lift early to keep brake temperatures under control. In both cases, potential race results were compromised. This is why the upcoming updates are so critical. The new components are designed to reduce the need for lift and coast, and to improve the overall balance of the car, especially on high downforce circuits. With these changes, the team hopes to give the drivers more flexibility in terms of race strategy and enable them to push the car harder when it counts. Still, even with these efforts, expectations must remain measured. Some of Ferrari's issues appear to be structural and cannot be resolved overnight. Nonetheless, the team believes the gap to rivals can be narrowed in circuits that demand precise setups and aerodynamic efficiency. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, Ferrari has already started to shift some of its attention to the 2026 regulations. Development of the current car in the wind tunnel will be halted this June, allowing engineers to fully dedicate the facility to the all-new car architecture required for the next generation of F1 machinery. The 2026 rulebook introduces sweeping changes in chassis design, power unit integration, and aerodynamics, and Ferrari must make key decisions between June and July, including suspension geometry, aerodynamic platform, and overall packaging. These early choices are critical, and much of them will be informed by what the team continues to learn from the SF25. So, even though the 2025 campaign remains in full swing, the car is effectively becoming a development tool for the future. The challenge now is to find a balance. Keep pushing to salvage what's left of 2025 without compromising the head start needed for 2026. Max Verstappen's future at Red Bull Racing is no longer as secure as it once seemed. According to Automotor UND Sport, the reigning three-time world champion and his management team are actively pushing for significant internal changes within the Red Bull organization, and the main target is none other than team principal Christian Horner. Sources close to the situation reveal that Verstappen's entourage is demanding a decentralization of power within the team. Currently, Horner holds immense influence over multiple departments, ranging from marketing to technical operations. This level of centralized control, once seen as a strength during Red Bull's dominant years, is now being questioned amidst a drop in performance during the 2025 season and ongoing internal controversies involving Horner. The proposed solution from Verstappen's camp is simple. Either Red Bull adopts a multi-leader structure, similar to how McLaren operates today, with strategic responsibilities shared among multiple top figures, or Verstappen could walk away from the team. This isn't just a theoretical ultimatum. The report claims that Verstappen is seriously considering leaving Red Bull unless these internal adjustments are made, and the timing could be sooner than expected. The pressure is mounting ahead of the summer break, with a decision possibly being finalized after the Hungarian Grand Prix. In fact, the power struggle within Red Bull might already be playing out behind the scenes. The report mentions that potential replacements or additions to the leadership team are being quietly discussed, with names like Andreas Seidel, currently with Sauber/Audi, and Peter Bayer, now CEO of the RB team, emerging as possible candidates to rebalance the internal structure. But removing or even limiting Horner's authority is no simple task. Despite recent scandals and internal dissent, Horner remains one of the most politically powerful figures in the Formula One paddock, with deep connections and a long history of success at the helm of Red Bull Racing. Still, without full backing from Red Bull GmbH, especially after his recent controversies, his influence may not be untouchable anymore. Verstappen, for his part, does not want to leave Red Bull. That much is clear, but he is reportedly unwilling to continue under the current structure. The Dutch driver's desire is to see Red Bull evolve, become more adaptable, and reduce its dependency on a single authoritative figure. If that doesn't happen, then the door to other options could swing wide open. And those options are very real. Both Mercedes and Aston Martin are reportedly monitoring the situation closely. Mercedes, with its current lineup of George Russell and young prospect Andrea Kimi Antonelli, is believed to be willing to reshuffle its driver pairing if Verstappen becomes available. The team is said to want clarity on its 2026 lineup before the summer break, adding pressure to Verstappen's timeline. Meanwhile, Aston Martin is rumored to have already made a massive financial offer for Verstappen earlier in the year. Although that deal didn't materialize, the interest remains, and Verstappen's potential availability could spark a bidding war between top-tier teams. Despite the outside interest, insiders insist that Verstappen would prefer to stay where he is, provided that Red Bull is willing to evolve. His loyalty to the team that brought him into F1 and delivered 3 world titles is genuine. But that loyalty has limits when faced with internal stagnation and structural dysfunction. Ultimately, Verstappen's message to Red Bull is crystal clear: adapt or risk losing the most dominant driver of the current era. For a team that built its success on innovation and bold moves, this may be the most pivotal crossroads it has faced in over a decade.